Hello, everybody. Attention.
He has such a large voice. Welcome to our little clubhouse here in Geneva called the Viticulture and Wine Center of FLCC. I would like to introduce our notorious professor, Paul Brock. This is his class of winemakers that he leads, and he will pass the mic off to our prestigious art professor, Liz Brunel. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Gina. Just want to introduce Mark Peterson as our viticulture technician. He helps us behind the scenes make everything happen here. First year viticulture students, raise your hands. Don't be shy. No, you're second year, Dan. Yeah, there's a few first years. Next year will be your turn for this. And second year viticulture students, raise your hands. There you go. The five of you, keep your hands up. Yeah, come on in just a minute. But these are the guys who will be picking the labels after everybody leaves tonight. So this is how it works. The art students, you're going to come up and present, which you know. And the viticulture students will take studious notes and ask you questions. And then after everybody leaves, we have a very judicious and positive way of giving feedback and discussing and eventually picking one of these. And I know it's always a hard decision. We've been doing this. I say we, the art department, the viticulture department, Liz and I, and other people now, since 2010. As 16 years, and we have 16 labels to show for it, which is just awesome, because every single one of them represents the work of the design students, not just the ones that won, but all the other ones that participated, and the viticulture students, from pruning grapes in the winter all the way through bottling wine in the spring. And it's really just an awesome collaboration that we have for Finger Lakes Community College. And it's one of the reasons why I'm back here, because I left for a little while and I came back and I love it and I love what I do. So that being said, welcome everybody. I'm so happy to have you here. The whole viticulture program is happy to have you here, because usually it's kind of lonely here. And it's really nice when there's so many people here, when we can share the things that we do with you. And this is the most exciting event that we have every year. And that's because of the design students and all of the effort that you guys put in. And I want to thank you personally for that effort. And without further ado, I will hand it to Liz, and she'll get the show going. Cheers.
Thanks, Paul. Okay, so first of all, Paul, Mark, and Gina, thank you so much. Every year you make this an amazing event. I want to give also a special shout out to Amy McGowan here in the front, our tech specialist, Zachary Abraham, who's around here somewhere. Zach, raise your hand. And Bex, who could not be here today. They are people who made all of these boards come together. So students submit work just like they would to a printer, and then our tech team in the graphics area printed it and mounted it and show together. So thank you. Another thing that I think it's important to remind everybody who's here as a spectator about, maybe even the VIT students, is that this is the result of the list of information that the viticulture students deliver to the graphic design students. They come up with a list of objectives, things that they feel represent them for this particular vintage. And students run with it. The other thing to point out is you are seeing the result of 3 weeks of work by our students. So it's a real timeline, and you can see different solutions. So I am going to hand off to our first presenter.
Hi everyone, my name is Natalia Proskernia. So for my designs, I want to talk about the design first. So in the front of the label, the background of it is actually a pattern using the outlines of the Finger Lakes and also a bear. So I know that for a few years, the students have been asking for a bear incorporated within the label. So that's where I incorporated it in. And then for the name, Windtragen is actually German for wine bear. And then for the back of the label, I used Seneca Lake as the scale for the dryness, sweetness. And then using, so if you can, which one should I? Okay, this one. Okay, so if you can see, this is the illustration that I used within the background to create that pattern. And then I actually put a little gold dot, which is where the viticulture location is. And then I use that dot within the scale to show, obviously, what kind of, if it's dry, sweet. And then, so the symbolism of the bear is, it shows the strength and the endurance, which I think it can be seen within, the strength can be seen within the team and, you know, their work trying to produce this wine over this long time. And then the endurance can actually be seen within the team as well, but also within the wine itself. Obviously, it's a very long process. So the grapes do endure a lot within that process. Yeah, I think that is about it. Does anyone have any questions?
So one of the things that I'm always curious about whenever I see, especially in a branding sort of sense, is the work with fonts. So I'm curious as to how you chose both the titular one as well as, you know, throughout the label on the back as well. Just how you came to the decision that you did.
So I actually just played around with a bunch of different fonts to see what matched the overall aesthetic of the label and the background and the illustrations. And then I did see that right here in the middle, it does kind of work together. I wish I did push it a little bit more so it curved more equally with the E and the T. So I did like that. And the font I just think worked really nicely with what I had done with the illustrations in the background. I think, honestly, I don't know off the top of my head, no.
My question, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but
That's
thank
okay.
you for going first, by the way.
Yeah.
That's a big task, so you did good. Warum haben Sie einen deutschen Namen gewählt? Why did you pick a German name?
So I know it was included in the list of what the students wanted, is they wanted something to do, something Germanic. So I chose to do the name of that in German.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me here today. It's an honor to be here. And honestly, hats off to all of you for the amazing work you guys do all around. So for my design, I remember specifically that you guys had mentioned that you were inspired by Germanic folklore. So I decided to go into a deep dive onto old Germanic gods. Now, during the time when Germany was first developing, a lot of the influence came from Greco-Roman. So they had a god, and his name was Succulus, and Succulus was the god of winemaking and change and freedom. Some of his symbols included grapes, butterflies, and the sun. So in my design, I wished to incorporate butterflies and the sun. If you look onto the gold labeling, there is a sun, and it is made out of the Finger Lakes. And if you look closely, there are various butterflies made out of wine. Now, I decided to go this route specifically because I was very inspired by some of the butterflies that locally lived here in the Finger Lakes, specifically one species of note called the red admiral. The red admiral actually also lives in Germany. And what most importantly to me is that I actually struggled coming up with this design. As my teacher can tell you, I just couldn't find something that made me happy. And one thing that meant so much to me with this design is that I found heavy inspiration somewhere where I didn't think I would. I had gone back and I had found some old artwork that my father had done. My father passed away last year, and I noticed that he did this beautiful artwork where if you look closely, the leaves of the roses he had drawn were butterfly wings, so I wanted to bring that into my design. If you look closely, the butterfly wings make up the leaves on the grapes, and they connect heavily to the life cycle of a butterfly and the life cycle of wine. Obviously, we have the egg, and then it becomes a bundle, which is the caterpillar, and then it goes through the process of winemaking, which is its metamorphosis, and eventually becomes a butterfly. I picked the name Metamorphosis because I thought it represented how I change and how you all will change, becoming winemakers, and how this art I feel that changed me and how I like to draw. Yeah, of course.
Question, is there any reason you decided to go for like a thin Bordeaux style bottle versus say a wider Burgundy bottle as some of your classmates might have?
Honestly, I just found the shape more appealing. I'm heavily attracted to curvier, more full designs, and obviously, you know, if you guys weren't into that, I am completely willing to change anything that you need me to. You know, very open to that. I just found that bottle style more attractive, in my opinion.
Out of curiosity, compared to even a lot of things you see out there, and I do quite like it, the very unique outline silhouette of the label. What drew you to, you know, a non-traditional shape, not just, you know, 90-degree angles?
Probably because I'm not traditional. I love, like, I'm a very artsy person. My family can tell you. I've always been a little avant-garde. And I just thought, you know, I wanted it to stand out. I wanted something that if you saw it on a shelf, you could look at it and you go, oh, that's you know, that's FLCC. That's their logo. I just really wanted it to stick out. So I'm pretty loud. Tina, are you here? So if this label were to move along, it's a die cut, and is that something that we are able to do, or would that be an upcharge? Then it would be an upcharge if we go outside of the rectangle. Yep. Yeah, I just think it's an important distinction. I mean, you could still do this label and have a black square behind it and have just as much meaning. I just wanted to point that out. Yeah, that's completely fine. I was willing to do that. I'm, you know, like I said, I will change anything that is desired on this label. I'm very flexible to work with.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Harry, and as you'll learn, I'm not from here, that's why I have an accent. I'm from New Zealand, and I'm here at FLCC majoring in graphic design. And I think to me, wine is more than just a drink. I think wine gives us the opportunity to show gratitude, to connect with others, and to demonstrate to our friends, family, and to our culture and our ancestors. And keeping in mind, I wanted to use that to come up with a label and a logo that really shows those values. And I came up with Aroha. So Aroha actually stem back from my roots from New Zealand. In the native language of New Zealand, Aroha translates to love. So love to yourself, to your friends, your family, to those opportunities, to the culture and to history in the past. And I really encapsulate love. So I ended up with the universal symbol of love, which is obviously the heart. Because I really wanted to be in the culture that I have. So there are a few different styles, and today, winter has a deep rooting, and I wanted to honor that, honor that to you guys. And this is my way to say thank you to you for your hard work and everything that you guys have done. And that is what the label stems back to: the gratitude, the thankfulness for the connections and the opportunity, because my come all across the world to be here today. So that's my way to say thank you to you guys for everything you guys have done. And yeah, so that is the meaning behind my label.
So, a little bit of an obvious one. New Zealand obviously has its own history, background, culture when it comes to wine. Would you say that you ended up taking any amount of inspiration from that aspect of your background, or did you mostly take it from the language as well as, like you said, you included the topography?
Yeah, so with the name of the brand, obviously I took that from my culture. New Zealand's got a very famous reputation with wine as well. In terms of the typography use, the way that I've gone with the letter A's, the little A's are made out of what we call a koru, which represents life and development and wisdom. So with the typography of the title, that also stems back to my home and my traditions.
And you said the backgrounds, design, contour lines, and topography. You said that was right here, or moreover, where specifically?
Is the contour line, the topography of the space between Canandaigua and Geneva, so right on the FLCC. Yeah, and obviously includes the Viticulture Centre in that space as well. Mm-hmm.
Did you have any other Aloha? I'm just a little bit wondering about people's misinterpretation that it has some similarity with Aloha, Hawaiian word.
Well, New Zealand is a Polynesian country, so we share a similar language to Hawaiian. So there's a lot of similarity there. So yeah, yeah, I do understand the connection, and I think that works as well, because hello, it's how you greet people. It's how you start your connection with people. So I think that still works, even if you interpret it that way. I think it still works very well.
Yeah, I really like the font choice, and the heart is nice too. Good job.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Today, I will be presenting two variants of the 2026 Viticulture wine labels of the Riesling and the red wines. My design is called Glacier, which is an inspiration of the 11 lakes, of the Finger Lakes, which were shaped thousands of years ago by retreating glaciers in the Ice Age. So let me tell you how this relates to the Viticulture Center, or ties into it. The lakes give a dramatic landscape of long, deep, ribbon-like lakes carved into the earth, just like the grapevines in the vineyard and the hard work carved into harvest. The glaciers left behind steep slopes, mineral-rich soils, and deep waters that moderate the climate, creating ideal conditions for cool climate grapes such as Riesling and Cabernet Franc. From these 11 glacial lakes now rises a winemaking tradition defined by the bright acidity and brings the viticulture, which continues to lay the foundation for world-class wine and a lasting legacy. So as you can see here for this, the Riesling, it has, actually all of them have a cream color logo on it, or background, so that way they can stand out and fit evenly with each wine label, or each wine bottle respectively. I did include, for the sweetness levels, the Finger Lakes, 4 lakes, which is Canandaigua, Cayuga, Canadice, and Otisco. So those create the sweetness level. And I also did the 11 lakes as well here, and yeah. I'm not good with speeches. So do you have any questions?
Thank you. Griffin, how did you come about with the logo? Was that hand-drawn? Did you work on that?
Yeah, I did work on that through lines and InDesign to create that, or Illustrator to create that.
Is there any direct inspiration for that shape or those?
Yeah, so I am from Canandaigua, so I'm used to the rolling hills and the ups and downs that we have here, and especially the ups and downs that you guys have here for the viticulture. So going from the bottom, going to the top, and presenting them to the people around here.
Nice job, Griffin.
Thank you.
So what was the inspiration for sort of a more flowing font, really, for the name, instead of something that might be a little more rocky, I guess?
So the reason why I did that is so it can stand out, so it can look more traditional and modern at the same time, and creating that dynamic flow with each lettering and each, I would say, each lettering for the fonts. Is that it? All right.
Hello, everyone. My name is Courtney Cochran, and today I'd like to present to you my wine labels. These are based off of German folklore. It is called Basking Bacave. This creature is best known for its statue in the city of Aachen, Germany. The legend of the Bacave is centered around the activity of drinking, which felt pretty fitting to me. The Bacave is thought to lurk near bodies of water, like the Finger Lakes, waiting until night to prey on drunken people and rob them of their riches. However, when it comes to the delicious Finger Lakes Riesling, the Bacave is more interested in taking a sip in the sunshine. While the story of the Bacave is what inspired these labels, I was sure to create a variant that featured just the chalice that it's sitting on, due to the Bacave's kind of intimidating nature. I have also created a red Cabernet variant to show just how expanded the palate of the Bacave can truly be. On all of these labels, I envisioned the silhouette of the Finger Lakes to be in a golden foil to further emphasize how rich the area and its wine is. And that is all I have to share, so thank you.
So obviously a very distinct style. I wish I could put a name on it, but it's been a while since my last art history class. What drew you to that sort of, very sort of no line work, but very color popping look?
Well, in the list of what the Viticulture Center wanted, they wanted Germanic folklore, as said before, but they also didn't want like a very traditional, classic, old style label. So I wanted to incorporate both of those while still keeping it very modern and bright.
Is that what a Bacall is supposedly supposed to look like, or was that more just your interpretation, or are there parts that a Bacall has in folklore?
Well, while I was doing my research into the German folklore and I had come across the Bacall, which I had never heard before, it was actually very difficult to find information on it. But then I found the statue in Aachen, Germany, and that is like the main depiction where you can actually find what it looks like. It was actually a very odd description of what it's supposed to look like. It said, I mean, it lurks near the water, it's supposed to be in the water, but it's supposed to be a deformed calf. So I found that kind of interesting, but it's definitely based on the depiction in the statue. Any more questions? Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Hannah Bates, and I'm a graphic design student here at FLCC. To start my design, I first read over the recommendations that you guys had, and I specifically focused on how you guys had a desire for a minimalistic design that touched on the theme of community, nature iconography, the winemaking process, the Finger Lakes, and the Germanic ties between the Finger Lakes and wine itself. So the first thing I did after reading that was do some research on the Finger Lakes and wine itself. And in doing that, I learned that the Finger Lakes is most often compared to the Rhine Valley region in Germany due to the similarities in its soil and the other important elements in making wine. And then once I learned that, I looked up what the German word for soil is, and I found the word Die Erde, which literal translation is the soil or the earth. And I felt like that was a good choice for the name, as it shows the importance of soil in the winemaking process, provides the German tie because it's German, and it also gives a sense of community as we all grow and start from the same soil, and we're all nurtured by those around us and those who came before us, and that connects us all through the earth. And then once I landed on that name, I started focusing on the design itself, and because you guys wanted nature, I was thinking about the sun, which worked out because one of you said or spoke about the importance and the symbolism of the sun in winemaking. And I thought an interesting way to incorporate the Finger Lakes was to turn the rays of the sun into the Finger Lakes itself. And then after that, I created the border, which is created out of 3 different Germanic runes. The triangle is Ingwas, which is means it's the old name for the god Freyr, who is the Germanic god for abundance, fertility, and peace. And then the second rune that it's created out of is Lagus, which stands for lake or water. And then the final rune that I used is Sowilu, which is sun. So it all kind of ties into each other. Any questions?
Just one thing I'm curious about as far as the sun in the center, as well as the lakes around it, the use of the sort of a little bit of texture in an otherwise, very sort of solid color design. I'm just curious about how you went about making that decision.
So I wanted it to read definitively that it's supposed to also represent the lakes and read as water, so that's why I decided to make it blue, because I know not everybody knows what the Finger Lakes look like. I know I sure didn't. So what I did in the program that I used, Adobe Illustrator, you can actually choose like what type of brush you use, and I used a watercolor brush, so it gave that texture to it, and I drew over the Finger Lakes to create that. And then I thought, because I've been told that in years past, gold foil is really popular, so I thought making the actual like sun in the middle be gold foil was an interesting way to make it stand out even more.
It looks like it's already got its own gold medal.
Any other questions? I actually came up with the runes after vetoing a previous thought process, which was more, that design was more Germanic mythology based, and it was going to center around the god Freyr, but it started to look very Greek instead of German. And it was starting to get a little too busy, so then I went back to the more simplistic design of the sun. Right. Yep. Yeah. Do you have it? Okay. All right. Thank you.
So our next presenter, it may be a little more difficult to hear, but I should have mentioned at the beginning, there are two sections of graphic design. One section is face-to-face, taught by Margaret Pence, and the other section is completely online, taught by me. So this presenter is online with us today to answer all of your questions. I'm going to play her video, but you might just need to listen closely.
Hello, my name is Kayla. I unfortunately can't be here in person today, but I'm still excited to share my wine label design with you all. I chose the name Shoreline to allude to the significance of the Finger Lakes region. This is also meant to invoke a sense of tranquility, almost beach-like, but in this case it is referring to the lake. But the color palette also aids in this design direction, which is indicative of the refreshing nature of the wine. The back label includes some pairing suggestions and a brief description of the wine's flavor, which of course is subject to change. It's all placeholder text, but I wanted it to have a similar vibe to what the end product could look like. Overall, I had a great time making these labels, and I thank you for your time and consideration, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Okay, so Kayla, you can unmute yourself and answer any questions that they have. Can you unmute?
So kind of common theme that we've been asking up till this point is the use of font, and obviously in Shoreline it's quite distinct, shares a lot with the swirling nature of the label that you chose, but some of the other such as the varietal as well as on the back label, how did you go about making those choices?
I see that there is some patterning in the background of this slide. Is that type of imagery or iconography incorporated in the label in any way, or is that just the slide background?
There's no pattern in the label itself. I did play around with that idea, but it just made the text hard to read. So the pattern is just inspired on the main logo on the front label. I was just trying to give it a little visual interest.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Kayla.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lauren Turner. I also am a second-year graphic design student at FLCC. So after doing some initial research as well as just my knowledge working in the Finger Lakes wine industry, there are a couple words that came up almost constantly in everything you read or hear about this region. And those words are community, collaboration, and creativity. So using those as a core inspiration, as what you folks said in your brief, I'd like to present Embracing Vines. So I did make an example of a Riesling as well as a red varietal, a Cabernet Franc, just so you could kind of see the differences. I also, in your brief, you mentioned seeing something in a darker, more modern style versus the lighter old world. So I did make two different kind of versions that you could go with, or even just varieties that you could use for different things, maybe like a reserve or, different styles. So starting with the name, embracing means to accept and support something willingly and enthusiastically. If that doesn't represent the Finger Lakes, I don't know what does. Every winery helping each other, helping your neighbors, that's a big thing in this area that's maybe a little bit unique and uncommon in other regions. So if you look closer at the artwork itself, each kind of part of the label was made in a different style. So this is a mixed media. Starting at the beginning of wine, you have the vines and the leaves, where we grow up, where we start. And if you look in the background, you can see I made some wine stains, straight with a wine glass and some wine. And so kind of the end, after you've enjoyed the wine with friends, with family, kind of, again, bringing that community together. I also wanted to highlight the fact that each wine variety has like slightly different variation in the vining and the leaves. So the leaves specifically, if you look at the two varietals, this is actually like a Riesling leaf. That is a Cabernet Franc leaf. So I thought that would be an interesting way to not only define these styles and varietals, but also just, again, kind of harkening back to this comes from the ground. Everything's a little bit unique. Everything's different. No two wines are the same. And lastly, inside the leaf itself, instead of your typical veining, like you would see, I actually made the Finger Lakes outlines. So that's represented as well, because we wouldn't be here without those Finger Lakes. That's what makes this region unique, maybe similar to other places, but it's kind of our core, our heart and soul here. And then on the back label, I also put some, different tasting notes. Obviously, those can be altered and changed, but I kind of, again, with my experience in the culinary world and as well as working in the industry, I kind of just made up some different pairings for the different varietals. So, yeah, enjoy. Any questions?
So I see that there is some nice detail on it. I really appreciate that, like the woodblock print style and all the mixed media. I see that you went and did a foil capsule, but I can't quite make out the text on the capsule. What does it say on the capsule?
Yeah, so on the foil itself, I know that wasn't part of it, but I did think it kind of brought it together a little bit. And it actually, so it says FLX on the side, Finger Lakes, and then community collaboration and creativity. So, because it's a very unique thing to this region and is important to highlight.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So obviously, you know, it's been mentioned that one of the things that was part of the brief was minimalism. But just in this particular case, I was curious about that, as Charles said, that wood print that kind of comes out almost a little bit shadow boxy look as far as the main aspects, the sort of foreground of the label. And like how you made that choice, what that design process.
So when I was kind of thinking about it, there's a lot of different ways that you could do vines, and I kind of wanted them to stick out and be the forefront because, you know, again, that's where it starts. So I did actually make that linoleum cut block, printed it. I actually have it in my pocket over there if you want to see it. But yeah, kind of doing it in a mixed media way would also kind of put that collaboration into that one cohesive piece, so you could kind of get different elements. And I just thought it would be a really nice contrast, especially with the back, because it was going to have the staining. So you wanted something to really stick out on top of that and kind of draw your eye in, and then, you know, the more you look, the more you see. So it really tells the story.
Yeah, I think the wine stains give the impression that it's an approachable wine. You know, it's not fancy. It's,
Absolutely.
You know, it's something that deserves to be enjoyed.
When I was working, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. When I was working, one of the big things that I worked at Fox Run, and one of their big things was wine is for everybody. Wine shouldn't be too fancy for you. It should be approachable. So that's kind of the mentality that I tried to go with.
Drink wine, be happy.
Absolutely, man.
The way that you handled the request for minimalism is very subtle. I don't think it took me a couple minutes to pick up on it, but you did a really fine job of walking the line of being, you know, complex and fancy with lots of details, but also making it very simple. I'll just be open and say I prefer the upper one, the black and white one, as opposed to the darker labels. I think it's clearer. It's easier to read.
Absolutely.
And the fact that you actually did a woodcut, which is something handmade, kind of ties it in with what we're doing as winemakers. Just a comment.
Well,
not
I'm pretty jealous of you guys. I thought about going for viticulture, and, you know, respect, man.
Nice job, thanks.
So, thank you. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Oh, I should give this back to you. Just gonna give it to the next one.
Okay, so our next presenter is also a remote student who couldn't make it here today. So I am going to play for you his video. He is not here to answer questions, so I will try to answer as best I can, and his classmates may also be able to answer.
Hello, I'm Nicholas Gabriel Moreno, second year graphic design student. My wine label is based off German sons that I grew up with when I was living in Texas. Sunne Gutz is translated from German to sun-kissed. The leaves I chose were trace-off photos I think I found from the actual viticulture pictures to show, of course, have the effect. The white label is all sun-colored, something I really like. The red, I love the colors that I chose. Definitely something I deeply appreciate about. And yeah.
So I will just run through both of the labels so you can see them on the screen as well.
Hi, I'm Chloe Cornett. For my design, I really wanted to incorporate German and the Finger Lakes together. So what I did is, wait here, I'm gonna go over here. So these are tall valleys where grapes grow in Germany. They have a term for it called sunny slope, which is what the title is, just in German. It's called Sonnenhang. It's a pronunciation for it. And the water on the bottom right here is actually Seneca Lake. I thought it was an interesting way to tie them together because I assume at the bottom of the hill there's water for the grapes. But in Germany they grow them on the tall valleys so that they get enough sunlight so the grapes ripen properly. So I thought it was important to include that. And then on each variation, these lines on the hills change based on whichever the wine is. So here they're pink, here they're green, and the other one, they were red. So yeah, I think that's all.
The hills themselves, are they any particular ones in general? Like any particular river, any particular bend, or more the idea of?
It's more the idea of, I looked up actual grapevine hills in Germany and I just kind of looked at it and was drawing at the same time. I just kept messing with it until it looked right to my eye.
And any reason you decided to go with, say, like the cut corners and that sort of, rounded edge as opposed to the more traditional, sort of rectangular and blocky shapes that we've been seeing?
I just felt like the whole thing just looked nicer with the curved corners. When I had them as the 90-degree corners, it just felt very spacious, I guess. There was a lot of extra space that I felt like didn't need to be there. So then when I curved the corners, it kind of, I don't know, just like clicked in my brain, I guess. It made more sense for them to be curved. But I am open to changing anything. It's just how I
like
saw
it. It's a little
personally.
softer. It's a little bit more inviting, maybe.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Just with the graphic art element of the hills there, is there any particular inspiration for that? Is that, German folklore or anything like that in that?
The inspiration I used was just a photo of Germany in the hills. I just Googled, German grapevine hills, and I just scrolled through the photos, kind of got the feel for it, and then just went on into Illustrator, started drawing lines. Yes, I was thinking about making it gold foil. It's not, I didn't do the texture thing, but I thought it would be cool if it had that gold foil pop.
Okay, so our last presenter is joining us online today, and we will listen to her presentation, and then you can ask your questions.
My name is Leah Stows. I'm a second-year graphic design major at FLCC, and I created a series of wines called 4252 Seneca Lake Varietals. Here's the full line that I created, featuring a white, a red, and a Riesling. The name of the series, 4252, refers to the latitudinal coordinates where the wine was produced. The name here is in blue sparkles because the name of the wine on each bottle, as well as the graphic image of the Finger Lakes themselves, which you'll see on the background here, will be printed in a deep blue hot foil representing the sparkling waters of our Finger Lakes. Each label also features two graphic elements that I actually combined into one, which are the bright yellow 4-point compass combined with the sun. You'll see a large version of this 4-point compass in the background of this slide as well, and it is a featured image combined with the sun on the front and back of each label to support the 4252 name and location of the wine. So here's a closer look at the label featured on our Riesling bottles. 4252 North is the latitude of the FLCC Viticulture and Wine Center in Geneva, New York. And you can see that there is a compass in the very center of the front label, placed directly on top of Seneca Lake in the exact location where the wine was produced. The larger version of the compass in bright yellow is included as part of the sun, with these subtle rays fading into the blue lake background. The labels were done with a texture feature to give a feeling of the waves of the lake, the heat and glow from the sun, as well as texture of the land around the lakes. Breaking down the verbiage, on the front it says 4252 Seneca Lake, and then the varietal, which this one is Riesling, from 2025, with the alcohol content as well as the volume on the bottom there. The back of each label says the same thing for the first few sentences. It is 4252 is the latitude of the FLCC Viticulture and Wine Center in Geneva, New York. The location of the Finger Lakes region and the cold, deep waters of our lakes play important roles in producing our grapes. This wine is a product of the FLCC Viticulture and Wine Technology Program, which provides students with hands-on experience from grape to bottle. This is followed by some tasting notes and information about each of the individual wines. This one specifically says it's intended to harmonize rich, ripe fruit notes with a balanced level of sweetness. The 2025 Riesling harvest was one of the last to be picked, indicating ripeness and development of complex flavors. I did do a little bit of research and went onto the FLCC Viticulture webpage and Instagram pages to get some information as well as tasting notes for these labels, so hopefully I'm kind of close. After that short blurb on the back, you'll see that there is a sweetness scale along the wave of blue. The sweetness is denoted by another 4-point compass that shows where each varietal lies on the scale. So this is the whole line of wine labels, front and back. I can see I chose a Cayuga White featuring gold and white hot sunshine. Then the Cab Franc, which has the reds, oranges, and pinks that kind of glow and blend into the blue water. And then the Riesling with gold and a touch of earthy green in the center. Here's the up-close version of the Cab Franc label, showing that beautiful glow and blends kind of like a sunset. On the back of this red label, I did note that it is a classic style Cabernet Franc using a Cabernet Franc punch down, a step in the traditional winemaking process of submerging the cap of the skins to extract tannins and flavors for fermentation. Again, a note that I took from the Instagram page. So that is my series featuring the 4252 location of our Finger Lakes community, aimed at using minimalism while incorporating the feeling of sunshine that is so important in the production of our wines, blending the colors that represent each varietal's relationship with sunshine, as well as the sparkling blue waters of our lakes. So there is 4252 wines.
So the use of texture definitely seemed to be something that I can both visually see and one that you talked about in your presentation. Is there any particular, just because it seems very much incorporated, is there any particular decision-making process as far as that goes, or is that just like a personal preference?
It was a visual choice. I mean, I made a lot of visual choices in terms of that texture and the color to kind of, if it's sitting on a shelf, to be able to visually be like, oh, what's that? But in terms of the texture, I just really wanted to kind of incorporate that background is blue waters, trying to get a vibe of lakes, as well as texture of heat from the sun, land around the Finger Lakes. But yeah, I just thought it was a kind of a cool addition and really kind of blended well with all of the different elements visually.
Kind of going back to the font kind of question. How did you have the decision to make your font choice? What was that?
I was trying to go with a kind of a modern feel for the label, easy to read. I chose just a couple that I really thought one lended well to having that hot foil for the 4252, and then another one that supports the main font that is just easy to read. Went through quite a few of them to try to find the right one that looked well on the back of the labels with the verbiage there. But just nothing was there, so nothing too fancy. Just trying to stay modern, easy to read, and something that would work well with a hot foil for the title for the name.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Leah. I was actually incorrect, so I need my computer to catch up with me. We do have one student who does not have a board, so I will leave the work on the screen for you.
Hello, my name is Nathaniel Wanzi. Apologies on the board. My fault. Anyways, here's the Riesling. It's kind of the same concept for all of them, except it's red and then rose, pink. Jahrgang is more of a like, it's German for vintage, and yeah, will be a sweet mixture of vines grown here in the Finger Lakes, from the dedication of the viticulture students, and yeah, I didn't make much of a presentation. Any questions?
Definitely compared to some of the other ones, a lot more in terms of sort of the darker, almost dusky colors. What drew you to that as your color palette?
I don't know, I kind of noticed on the, like, what you guys recommended that we did, that we saw not like, we wanted less traditional stuff, and from what I noticed around me in the room, everyone was kind of going a really bright. And yeah, I kind of wanted to be different.
The silhouettes on the label that are reflected in, I guess, what would be probably a body of water, what are those silhouettes? Are those taken from anywhere particular, or are they just an amorphous shape?
It's just in the shape of it. It's kind of like just mountains reflecting off of water.
Okay. And is the shape in the background of the grayish rectangle under a Jahrgang, that is representative of, I'm assuming, the sun?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you to all the artists. Some really great art up here, and I never look too much before I hear the presentations, because once you hear the presentations, what you see is a little bit different, and I really appreciate all the thought that you guys put in, and all the work and all the effort, and thank you so much for being here tonight. A couple more people I just wanted to thank. Tina Limley, you were called out during the presentations from Niagara Label. Niagara Label has been donating the printed labels for a long time now, over a decade. And Tina is a rock star in this wine industry. You would never know that there are rock stars in the wine industry that don't have anything to do with the actual thing that comes out of the bottle, but what's on the bottle. And she works with so many Finger Lakes wineries, and she's behind more wines than you would actually know. More than any winemaker in the Finger Lakes, we'll put it that way, and what it looks like on the shelf. And we're very lucky to work with her. She's a bastion of knowledge, and we learn a lot from her every year when we go through this process. And I wanted to point out, we are a commercial winery. So two things here. There's somebody that holds a winery license. A couple of those people are in the room right now are FLCC Viticulture and Wine Technology Corporation, Dr. Rob Nye, who's the president of FLCC. And Mike Rasenko is over here. And there's several others there, but we couldn't do any of this and offer you guys to taste our wine without that organization. And by the way, all the wine is for sale. So if you are over 21 and interested in buying wine with some past artwork from FLCC design students and the wine from the viticulture students, you can go home with your own bottle of wine tonight if you so choose. Please feel free, that basically this program is over, please feel free to walk into the back and see where the wine is made. A lot of the tanks have wine in them. You can see the lab if you've never seen it before. And I want to thank my students and the design students one more time. Great job, everybody. And thank you all for being here. What's going to happen after you all leave is we will talk about each label, and the rules are that the viticulture students can only be positive. They don't know these rules yet. I'll go over them with them. We're not design critics, so we just stay positive, and all the comments are meant to be positive. We'll go around. We vote as many times as we want. For the first round, whoever gets the most votes goes on to the second round, and we vote again, and we keep voting round and round and discussing every round until we actually have one label left. So we try and make it as democratic and positive as possible. So thank you guys so much for being here tonight, and congratulations to all the design students. Whether or not you're chosen or not, you've accomplished a lot, and thank you for doing what you've done. Cheers.